Welcome to Eagle Ops, your ultimate source for real war updates and battlefield stories. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our latest mission reports. 3 Ukrainian FP-1 drones crossed into Russian, monitored waters at 180 km/h, heading for a Russian ship that had been strangling Ukraine's naval drone operations. The Russian spy ship sat 15 miles off Novorossiysk. Its R-381T arrays listening. For 6 weeks, it logged a pattern of life and was days away from predicting strikes. While the patrol had been relatively quiet so far, this would all change in a matter of seconds. Unknown to the Russian spy ship, the Ukrainian drone skimmed 3 meters above the waves heading straight their way. Their plywood construction gave them a radar cross-section smaller than a seagull, essentially invisible to systems designed to track aluminum aircraft. A Russian 4-post R reconnaissance drone appeared on the horizon, patrolling in its standard racetrack pattern 30 km off the Ukrainian coast. The Canadian-made MX-15DI camera could spot a basketball at 5 kilometers away. Its thermal mode detected temperature differences of just 2 degrees. The lead FP-1's engine heat spiked on the 4-post display. 3 small contacts, low altitude, heading east at 180 km/h. The Russian operators zoomed in, trying to classify the targets. The pre-programmed evasion kicked in immediately. The drones dropped to 2 meters above the water, disappearing into what radar operators call ground clutter, the chaotic returns from waves that mask low-flying objects. Within minutes, the plywood frames had cooled to match the sea temperature. To the thermal camera, they'd vanished. The operator logged the contact as possible birds and continued his patrol, not knowing he'd just let through the vanguard of an attack. Behind the drones, the reason for their rushed launch became clear. Russian Shahed had found their launch site, arriving just minutes after the FP-1s cleared the area. The operators barely escaped as 50-kilo warheads turned their equipment into scrap metal. The spy ship's intelligence network was already working, but not fast enough to stop what was coming next. 20 Ukrainian naval drones launched toward Sevastopol at 80 km/h. What happened next would trick Russia into leaving their most valuable intelligence asset completely defenseless. The decoy swarm was a mix of modified jet skis and cheap commercial boats fitted with basic guidance. Each cost less than $10,000. Throwaway assets designed to look exactly like Mira V5 naval drones on radar. They maintained formation, transmitted the right radio signatures, and moved at attack speed. To Russian radar operators watching their screens, this looked like the largest naval drone assault since October 2022. Creating a convincing decoy swarm required more than just sending boats toward a target. The drones had to follow realistic attack patterns, spreading into assault formations converging on likely targets, even performing evasive maneuvers. Ukrainian operators controlled them via satellite link for the first 50 kilometers, then switched them to autopilot. Each drone broadcast on frequencies known to be monitored by Russian intelligence. Some even carried heat sources to mimic the infrared signature of armed drones. The deception had to be perfect. The Russian admiral had 6 Ka-27PL helicopters at Novorossiysk, 4 at Sevastopol. These helicopters were the Black Sea Fleet's primary defense against naval drones. Ships are too slow to chase them. Fighter jets can't hover to search. But helicopters can cover 100 km in 20 minutes, drop depth charges, and use their dipping sonar to hunt underwater drones. Without them, Novorossiysk sea approaches were defenseless. All 6 Novorossiysk helicopters launched west at 270 km/h. Every minute they flew west was another minute the real drones flew east unopposed. By the time they realized the deception, they'd be 360 km out of position. The spy ship 15 miles off Novorossiysk now had no air cover, no quick reaction force, no way to vector helicopters to investigate contacts. For the next 2 hours, any drone that got past the patrol boats would have a clear shot. The 3 FP-1s adjusted course 15 degrees north. This exploited something Ukrainians had discovered through months of observation. The Russians had 2 Podlet K1 radar stations covering this sector. Each radar rotated at exactly 10 revolutions per minute. Picture 2 searchlights spinning in circles for 4 seconds every minute. They were both pointing away from the same dark corner. That corner was a twilometer corridor the drones had to hit precisely. But the Russians had adapted. randomizing rotation to eliminate predictable blind spots. The first drone entered. 4 seconds. Invisible, 2 seconds visible, then invisible again. The radar operator saw a brief contact, something small, moving fast. The second drone followed 30 seconds behind. Still on course, still invisible with full fuel tanks. But the third had developed a problem. A microscopic flaw in its autopilot gyroscope caused it to drift off course. The third drone corrected hard north, burning. Precious fuel. It entered the collapsing corridor, and both radars painted it clearly. The operator marked it probable bird and returned to tracking the decoy attack. The third drone had made it through. But that maneuver burned 12 minutes of fuel. It would reach the target area with less than 60 seconds remaining. Meanwhile, the Russian spy ship maintained station 15 miles off Novorossiysk. Despite the decoy attack, its mission took priority. But the ship wasn't alone. 2 patrol boats maintained a protective screen circling at 5 km radius around it. At this point, the decoy fleet performed its final act. As the Russian helicopters closed in, the 20 drones scattered in different directions. Some beached themselves, others circled in, place until their fuel ran out. None attempted to reach actual targets. Their job was done. The helicopters spent another hour hunting stragglers, wasting ammunition on drones that cost less than a single depth charge. The real attack was still coming. But visibility continued dropping as morning fog thickened. The lead FP-1 was now 240 kilometers from the target when its GPS position began sliding east. The Russians had activated their jamming system from Crimea, broadcasting fake GPS signals at 100 watts versus real satellites at 0.001 watts. The Ukrainians, however, used visual navigation via oil platforms to reset their position manually. The second drone's GPS receiver failed due to poor hardware and crashed into the water. 2 drones left. The third one still had clean GPS, but not for long. The Russian ship went active. Its radar began painting the western approaches. But the drone's wooden structure confused the radar, giving inconsistent returns. The third FP-1 shut down all electronics and flew blind. Meanwhile, the ship's own jammers created electromagnetic interference with its radar, an act of electromagnetic fratricide. A patrol boat was sent to investigate the intermittent contacts. The crew manned their machine guns, scanning the fog. They were trained to engage aluminum drones. Nobody mentioned plywood ghosts. The lead drone reached the target area near Novorossiysk. The Russian spy ship sat exactly where predicted, still vectoring patrol boats. A temperature inversion was forming, bending radar beams upward. Anything below 30 meters was invisible. The FP-1 at 3 meters was effectively a submarine. The patrol boat spotted it visually at 500 meters and opened fire. Tracers hit, damaging the engine, but the drone kept running. It had 90 seconds of fuel left. The spy ship's mast came into view. The patrol boat reported the contact, but the real danger was still approaching unseen. The third FP-1 emerged from the fog, approaching at 180 km/h, just 10 meters above the water. The lead drone's engine seized and plunged into the sea, a perfect distraction. The third drone struck the ship's mast base, exploding instantly. The R-381T arrays melted, 6 weeks of intelligence gathering gone in seconds. The ship's radar and sensors were permanently destroyed. Within hours, Ukrainian drones were launching from new sites with new patterns. Invisible once again, the Russians could still hit launch sites, but now they were striking empty fields. The patterns were gone. Thanks for watching Eagle Ops, where real war stories meet precision reporting. Subscribe now and stay updated with the most intense moments from the front lines.